May 7th, 1915, 2:10 p.m., Irish coast. A German U-boat fires a single torpedo at the RMS Lusitania, the fastest, most luxurious ocean liner of its time. 1,198 people die in 18 minutes. But here's what they don't tell you. The British government knew the ship was coming. They didn't send a warship to protect it, and some historians believe Winston Churchill deliberately let it sink to drag America into World War I. This is the conspiracy that changed history.
The RMS Lusitania was a marvel. Built in 1906, she was the fastest passenger ship in the world. 4 massive funnels, luxurious first-class decks, speed that made her practically unsinkable. She could outrun any threat. The wealthy traveled on Lusitania, celebrities, businessmen, millionaires. But in 1915, World War I was raging. Germany had declared a war zone around Britain. Their U-boats were hunting merchant ships and passenger liners alike. The U.S. was still neutral. President Woodrow Wilson warned Americans not to travel on British ships. But Lusitania was so fast, so prestigious, passengers figured she was safe. Captain William Thomas commanded the ship. He knew the risks. He knew U-boats patrolled the waters near Ireland. But he also knew his orders from the British Admiralty. Here's where it gets interesting. The Lusitania wasn't just carrying passengers. Her cargo manifests were heavily redacted. Official records show standard goods, food, wine, machinery parts. But secret government documents later revealed the truth. Lusitania was carrying 173 tons of ammunition, rifle cartridges, shrapnel shells, explosives destined for the British war effort. In other words, Lusitania was a warship disguised as a passenger liner, flying a civilian flag while secretly transporting weapons of war. International law forbade arming merchant ships. If caught carrying ammunition, a neutral country like the U.S. would have been forced to act, so the cargo was hidden. The passengers had no idea.
As Lusitania approached the Irish coast on May 7, 1915, multiple warnings came in. The British Admiralty received intelligence that U-20, commanded by Captain Walter Schwieger, was hunting in the area. They knew the exact location of the German submarine, but they didn't send a destroyer to escort Lusitania. They didn't order the ship to take evasive action. They didn't even give Captain Thomas specific warnings about the U-boat's position. Why? Here's the theory. Winston Churchill, who served as First Lord of the Admiralty, may have deliberately exposed Lusitania to danger, hoping she would be sunk. Think about it. America was still neutral. Millions of Americans opposed entering the war. If a German U-boat sank an American passenger ship, killing American citizens, public opinion would swing overnight. America would be forced to enter World War I on Britain's side. And that's exactly what happened. But did Churchill orchestrate it? The evidence is circumstantial, but damning. First, Churchill's own memorandum, discovered in archives, stated, "If Lusitania were sunk, it would be a great loss, but would it not be a terrible thing if the ship were sunk without warning?" Second, the Admiralty deliberately withheld the location of U-20 from the Lusitania's captain. They could have warned him. They didn't. Third, a British minesweeper was supposed to meet Lusitania to guide her safely into port. It never showed. The ship was left completely unprotected. Fourth, the Admiralty ordered Lusitania to slow down as she approached the danger zone. Slower speed made her an easier target for torpedoes. Fifth, when the torpedo struck, it wasn't the only explosion. witnesses reported two massive explosions, the first from the U-boat's torpedo, the second from inside the ship. That second explosion, almost certainly the ammunition cargo detonating.
At 2:10 p.m., Captain Schwieger fired a single torpedo from U-20. It struck the starboard side. One torpedo, one hit. The ship had 2,000 people on board. She began sinking immediately. But here's the problem. She had fewer lifeboats than needed. Sound familiar? Only 1,200 lifeboats for 2,000 passengers and crew, the same deadly arithmetic as Titanic. But worse, many lifeboats couldn't be launched properly. The ship was tilting so steeply that davits couldn't work. Lifeboats crashed into the hull. People were thrown into the ocean. 798 people died from the initial impact and drowning. 400 additional people died later from exposure, hypothermia, and drowning in the freezing Atlantic. Among the dead, 128 American citizens. That was the spark. American newspapers erupted. "Lusitania sunk by German U-boat," screamed the headlines. "Murderers of the sea," read the editorials. President Wilson was furious. Public opinion swung dramatically. Americans demanded entry into the war. But the official narrative ignored one crucial detail. Lusitania was carrying ammunition. Churchill's office made sure that information stayed classified for decades. The public was told it was an act of cold-blooded murder by Germany. No mention of the hidden weapons. No mention of the withheld warnings. No mention of the deliberately exposed ship. The British government suppressed the truth for over 50 years. The manifests showing ammunition were classified. The Admiralty records about U-20's location were hidden. Churchill's memos were locked away in archives. When historians finally gained access to these documents in the 1970s, the full story emerged. Lusitania wasn't just a victim, she was bait. Some historians argue Churchill deliberately sacrificed 1,198 innocent people, including 128 Americans, to drag the U.S. into World War I. Others say it was incompetence, not conspiracy. The Admiralty simply failed to protect the ship. But here's what we know for certain. The British government lied about what Lusitania was carrying. They withheld warnings they could have given. They ordered the ship to slow down in a war zone. They failed to send protection. Whether it was deliberate conspiracy or criminal negligence, the result was the same. Over 1,000 people dead, and America entered World War I. America's entry into World War I changed everything. Fresh troops, fresh supplies, American industrial might. Germany's fate was sealed. The war ended. Millions died. Empires collapsed. The modern world was born through violence, conspiracy, and sacrifice. Did Lusitania's sinking have to happen? Could Churchill have found another way to bring America into the war? We'll never know. But what we do know, 1,198 people paid with their lives for geopolitical strategy. The wreck of Lusitania sits 295 feet down off the Irish coast, still carrying secrets, still sparking debate over a century later. Was it murder? Was it warfare? Was it sacrifice for the greater good? Make your own conclusion. But remember, the official story wasn't the full story, and the truth was buried for half a century. Sometimes history isn't about what happened, it's about what we're not told. The Lusitania wasn't just sunk by a torpedo, it was sunk by deception, by hidden agendas, by governments willing to sacrifice civilians for strategic advantage. If you believe in questioning official narratives and uncovering hidden history, subscribe.
drop a comment. Do you think Churchill deliberately exposed the Lusitania, or was it tragic negligence? Check the links in the description for declassified documents, Admiralty records, and survivor testimonies that fuel this debate. Remember the 1198. Question everything. And never assume governments tell you the whole truth.